What's going on, everybody? It is 8 o'clock on the East Coast. That means it's time for Proper Royals Live. My name is Adam. This is the Proper Royals channel. No music open tonight. We're going straight into just a cold open. I had some technical difficulties, so I'm on. You wouldn't know it, but I'm on my laptop here tonight, right? Perfectly off camera. I should not go picking this thing up and messing with the connections that I got. So I don't know. It might be time to retire the grandpa of the Apple Mac desktop that I have from 2015. Nonetheless, thank you all for being here tonight. We got Brandon Nixon on the show from Nixon Reptiles. You guys should know Brandon. He's often in our chats and providing killer information. He's a wealth of knowledge, man. You guys got to stick around tonight. And this breeding show is right up his alley. Like I say, just the content and the value coming your way tonight is going to be killer. I promise it. I got a couple announcements for you. Get my trusty pencil here. It dawned on me, there's like 700 to 1,000 of you all that end up watching each of these episodes, which I'm grateful for. That's awesome. I'm really humbled by it. I have all these questions that I never take the time to just ask. So I'm going to start each show off with just like asking a question that you guys can leave in the comment section, in the chat, or in the comment section afterwards too. And what dawned on me is, if you sell ball pythons, first, do you track your customers? And not in a creepy way, and like the way that any business would. And if you do, what do you use? Do you just use Excel? Do you use a good old fashioned paper list? Do you use a software company like HubSpot, or a CRM software like Monday.com? HubSpot's a CRM software as well. I have an app called Things. It's an Apple app. It's not made by Apple, but it's for Apple products, called Things. It's a very simple workflow spreadsheet kind of organizer that I really like because of its simplicity. But I've been messing around with HubSpot lately too. So I'm curious what you guys use and what made me think of it. If you're wondering what in the world I'm talking about and you just went, man, am I supposed to be tracking more than I already do? If you're like, oh, I never knew that was a problem. And I don't mean to create a problem for you. But if I did, check out Stephen and Courtney at Leviathan Snakes. Their newest video today, I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about. They use Excel. Courtney is a little more advanced on Excel than I am. She would say those are simple tasks, but I guess I'm even more simple than those tasks on there. So I like Things. I've been learning HubSpot. Let me know what you guys use, because the better that we can serve our customers, the better results we're all going to have if you sell. Speaking of selling, one of my initiatives that I've always wanted to do, I got off the ground this week, and that is an email list direct to consumers. So cuts out Morph Market, cuts out some of the competition. You guys get the first dibs on all of these animals. Plus, there's a lot of animals that I wouldn't say don't make sense to put on Morph Market, but if it's like a head or a possible head or a single gene, these are still important animals, and they're perfectly good pets, but they might be just what you need for your breeding project, like a really specific say there was a leopard het clown and you were missing those pieces working towards a Batman. That would be a very, very valuable breeder for you. So but some of those things I just don't list on Morph Market. By the time you factor in shipping on a single animal, it gets a little expensive and that sort of thing. Anyway, if you want to get on the email list, I'll send you one inventory list a month. I'm not going to spam you. I never, ever will share your information. And there's about 100 of y'all already on it. Shoot me an email at properroyals@gmail.com, properroyals@gmail.com, or send me your contact information any way you can get it to me. You can message it to me on Instagram, Facebook, that kind of thing. I'll include you. No obligation, doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay an entry fee like Patreon or anything like that. Just let me know, and I would love to send you the animals that I have available, because now I'm to the season where they've all started eating, and a lot of them are going to start to become available, and I've got a lot more inventory than I've ever had before. So, and as Mark says, at 403 Fauna, I don't know the meaning of holdback. So, it's just, that's not completely true. That's apparently that's what I'm getting known for. So you win, and I'll figure out how to make it up. those of y'all that didn't see last week's show or that you missed the beginning of it, I found out last week that my current consulting contract is not going to be renewed for my biggest customer there in 2023. So I'm on the countdown. I got about 10 weeks to really cultivate some business in my life and figure out how I'm going to replace that revenue and that income. And that's okay. I've got a smile on my face because it's an opportunity, and that engagement lasted almost a year and a half longer than it was set up to last. So it's been a really great ride. I've been in the bonus territory a long time on it. It's cool, and there's plenty of options out there. So I'll figure that out. But one of the things I've been doing is it kind of kicked me in the butt to go, some of these initiatives I've been thinking of cultivating. I used that word earlier. I guess I like that tonight. I just went ahead and said, you know what the heck? Let's go for it. Let me give it a shot. And the timing didn't work out. I wanted to announce it tonight. I got to wait. It's going to be one more week. I can't, it's one of these things. We got a deal in principle, but I can't, it's not final. It's one of these nothing's final until everything's final situations. But next week, there will be a logo right there that you all recognize. And I think I'm just going to leave it there, other than to say I'm saying this with pride and gratitude, not in a flexing kind of way, but in a full, like I say, a full of gratitude way, but also a full of gratitude to you all. If there wasn't an audience to advertise to, advertisers would not come to me. And that is a remarkable outcome that I'm still getting used to. This company, like I say, you will know them. It's somebody that everybody knows. And the best part about it, I will tell you this is transparent. I'm not getting paid a dime for that partnership. It is completely designed to pass on value to my customers. So hopefully the experience with Proper Royals will be so good because they are helping me make it better. I'll leave it there because I maybe have already said too much, but just you wait. I got something for you all coming your way, and I'm excited about it. I'll let it be. That'll be the announcement next week. But I'm feeling really invigorated. I sway between a little bit anxious and a whole lot excited, and I'll land somewhere in the middle with some good results. I promise you that. Speaking of that, job news, several of you all reached out to me this week just to like check in on me. Like, how cool was that, man? Thank you. I'm not going to make it any more specific than that. Those are kind of personal relationships, and that's cool. But yeah, thank you all. Sorry, on YouTube, I've been slacking. I owe y'all a new video. I'll have a new video out tomorrow. It's my final breeding pairing. So it's apropos of our topic tonight, the breeding episode, my final pairings. Those will be out. I've been so busy selling or trying to sell. It's like going fishing. Do they call it fishing or do they call it catching? Sometimes it's fishing, sometimes it's catching. I've been so busy working on selling that I've slacked off on the marketing part. So you got marketing and sales, and one leads to the other. Can't have one without the other, and I shouldn't be slacking, but I've been slacking on a video. I will catch that back up on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll check out the channel. And yeah, the new video is going to be out tomorrow. Enough with the announcements. You all come for content. I promise you all content. If you haven't seen the show before, it's always about ball pythons. Sometimes we talk business. Sometimes we talk breeding. Sometimes we talk social marketing. Sometimes we talk all of it. It's always about ball pythons, and tonight is no different. We got Brandon Nixon from Nixon Reptiles, and it's breeding season in the Northern Hemisphere. Like right now, the high in Florida, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. The high tomorrow is going to be like 64 degrees. Like there's that cold front that gives us like the green light. So Brandon and I talked about, we I was going to say wrestled. That sounds negative. It's not negative. We batted ideas back and forth, and we couldn't really land on what the heck we were going to do. This is going to be a couple of weeks ago. And we pushed back tonight's show until we got that like aha moment. And credit to Brandon. He said, well, why don't we talk about breeding strategies, why we do what we do, and how to reach some goals? And I was like, hello, there's our show right there. So without any further ado, I hope that you will give a warm welcome back to the Proper Royal stage. He's been on once before, and I'm very glad to have Brandon back. Brandon Nixon from Nixon Reptiles. Boom. How are you tonight, Brandon?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm good. You got to see the pre-show scramble. We got it worked out. I think we were live by like 8:02. So, I mean, that's pretty solid. 2 minutes behind. I think that's still ahead of industry standard on the podcast. So I think we're good, man.
Yeah, definitely ended up working out.
Yeah, I got to, sorry, before we dive in, I got to say hello to everybody in the audience. I'm not going to do the roll call thing, but I do want to tell y'all thank you for being in. But I do like to say hello to the new folks I see. Hirsch Captive Red Ball Pythons, welcome. I don't think I've seen you before. Shannon says flex, man. I got about 134 pounds. I don't do a whole lot of flexing, man. I will let the results speak for themselves. So thank y'all for being here tonight, and thank y'all for I know that Brandon, I know that you posted to your many subscribers on Instagram. So anybody coming over from Brandon's channel, thanks for being here as well tonight. Brandon, those
I've seen I was just gonna say I've seen like Maddox in there, and Kai showed up. And the usual guys like the insane clown, and bunch of people that are usual faces in here.
Yeah, it's crazy to me to say that I've got regular. Like, this whole thing is still, I mean, I've been at the show over a year and YouTube several years now, but it's weird to me to say that there's regulars. Like, I hope everybody knows how appreciative and like, when I clam up, it's usually because I'm uncomfortable and anxious about it. That's a neat thing for me. I really, really, really appreciate that. Brandon, those are, for those people that don't know you, give us an introduction. Tell us about what you got going on, and maybe just a brief history, because you're a wealth of knowledge.
I mean, I started getting ball pythons in like 2019, and before that, I kept boa constrictors. I actually seen the celebrity in the house here, Alex of Boa Republic.
I saw Boa Republic, yeah.
Yeah, he's been around for forever. I mean, he brought in like he was like, I think he either brought in champagne or did something. Like, he was the first one that made mimosas. I mean, he's been in for a long time. Like,
wow,
when the common Kodam stuff was like 20 grand, like he was like in those days, like. And he's been a good friend of mine for a long time. And he actually kind of helped push getting into ball pythons for me, because we both know each other through boas.
Yeah.
So I started getting into the ball pythons in like 2019, and, raised them up for a couple years. And then last year had my first clutch, which was kind of a surprise. It was and it wasn't a surprise. I never seen any locks. And I was just going in to make a water change, and I seen a female wrapped up on eggs. So that was my first actual clutch. And then this year's my first year actually breeding, like, specifically, and actually doing, pretty decently. I mean, we've had 17 clutches so far. We have one more clutch due to hatch next week. And then I'm still waiting on one more clutch to lay. And then that'll be it. So we should be.
We still have one more coming this late in the season, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
If all goes well.
Right.
Really hoping for it. So we'll see.
Hey, you know what? I didn't move over when I switched computers. How's my audio? I think I'm on my laptop mic. Can you hear okay or not?
Yeah. No, it's all fine.
Okay, cool. I don't have the the podcast mic hanging down. Man, sorry, I gotta interrupt for a minute. Maddox Morphs, thank you so much, man. It's thank you. I'm appreciative of that. Anybody that contributes, I think everybody knows. It might not, Maddox, but that will go to feeding ball pythons. So if you want to help me feed the ball pythons so I can continue working on making content, I always appreciate it. Thanks very much, Maddox. Any topics you want to hit, Maddox, you let me know in the comments. We'll get there for you, brother. Thank you. So when you brought up one good point that's a little bit sideways from the breeding, but you talked about those days of the Kodams being like 10, 15, 20 grand. I think I didn't consciously stay away from ball pythons, but I didn't know everything that was going on in the world of ball pythons over the past 20 years. Because I actually owned ball pythons in college 25 years ago, and I had two normals, and I don't remember what I paid for them. They weren't cheap. A, because I didn't have any money as a college student, and B, because they weren't all that inexpensive at the time. But I remember walking into a store in Gainesville, Florida, and they had a pied, and like I think it was like 25 grand or something, but it may as well have been $1 million, And I was like, in my mind, I was like, there's normals, there's these albinos, and there's these pied things, and I don't know what they are. And so whenever I heard people talk about having ball pythons, I was like, well, either you
probably have a normal.
either I'm bored or you're a bazillionaire, and then. We don't have to get into my life story on ball pythons, but fast forward to the middle of COVID, and I'm like, maybe I wouldn't mind a ball python. Let me see what these things go for. And I Google ball pythons, and it's just, and not even the middle of COVID. It was April. It was like 6 weeks into COVID. I remember that very clearly. But yeah, I never gravitated back towards ball pythons just because I didn't realize everything that was going on in that time. I had so deeply imprinted in my head that it was either just a snake-looking snake, or it was this thing I could never ever achieve. So it's a beautiful evolution that we're still a part of. Like, I think that's one of the things I like the most about the industry and what we do.
Yeah. So two things about my history with ball pythons. It's, one of them's kind of like I don't know, could have been a life-changing event, and I kick myself every single day for it. And then the other is the thing that kept me into getting into them for so long is the live feeding. And I know you feed yours frozen thawed.
I do.
And I need to try a couple different methods, and because I know there's different things you can do, like heating up the head with like water or putting them under a heat lamp or whatever. Like I have a couple ball pythons that they'll snatch up that frozen rat like right away.
Oh,
But for the rest of them, because I refuse to feed a live rat, I just won't out of principle. I mean,
right.
I have always had pet rats as a kid growing up. Like they're just like tiny little dogs. Like there's no way that I'm going to feed a live one to a snake. So all my adult stuff usually gets either frozen thawed rats or live ASF.
Okay.
And that's just the way that it kind of goes for me. But that's the thing I got, and I know Maddox, he uses them around here too. A Keith with Boss Feeders. He's Ozzy's cousin. He actually breeds rats and ASFs. So that's my local guy that I get all my stuff from. So it works out pretty well. And, that's kind of the thing that kind of held me up. But the bane of my existence is actually yellow bellies. For some reason, back in like, I think it was,
cool. You were like, oh my God, that was great. I'm going to have to cut that clip out. I'm going to turn it into a reel. You're just going to be like, yellow bellies.
No, it's like one of those things, man. In 2000 and something, when I was still in high school, I was still like huge into the boas, which I still have boas. But I wanted an albino boa. And like as a high school student, like I saved up money, like I had like $1,200. I was ready to get the animal. And a dude that I knew, that I talked with on like AOL Instant Messenger, he lived in Daytona, and he was going to go to the show, and he was going to look for an albino boa for me. Not one albino boa in Daytona, but he came back and he actually had a mirror who, my brightness went all weird for a second. And he had a mirror who, if you don't know, he's the guy that came out with the ivories and stuff eventually. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit of a spoiler alert, but he offered me a pair of yellow bellies for like $1,200. And he sent me pictures, and I said, no, they don't look like anything. Like I'm not interested in them or whatever. Right. And then like a couple weeks later, it proved out that those made ivories. And that was the first time that a white ball python was ever captive produced.
Yeah.
So they went from like, who knows what to an insane amount of money. Like, the tens of 20s of 30s of thousands, like
right.
A stupid amount of money. And it's like, that literally could have changed probably the course of my reptile keeping. I mean, everything else. I mean, obviously I'm happy with, how things turned out, but like that could have been a huge thing for the snake collection and for the growth of like that stuff, because
you would have been you would have been just
I would have just happened right into what was at the time like an insane animal to have.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, there's moments in in our lives where we can't go back. I mean, there's nothing to do about it. But yeah, that's a kicker though, man. That's
It's just kind of a funny story to think about it. Like every time it like pains me because
right.
just, who knows what could have happened, but it is like kind of comical because you never know. And that's why I feel like now, like I know you said before, like you're not very risk adverse. I'm very like, I'll risk it. I'll go for it.
Yeah. See, I'm fair.
It'll figure itself out is kind of my thought process.
Yeah, I used to have that mindset.
Well, it's different when you got kids and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
Like I don't like my fiance and I, we don't have that stuff. So it's just her and I and a dog. So,
right.
We don't have to, different situations.
Yeah, and there's a lot of I don't like think about it like longingly, like I wish things were different. That's not the case at all. I adore my wife and my family. But I do think sometimes like if it was just me, well, here's the thing though. If it were just me, I'd still be rotting away working 70, 65, 70 hours a week in restaurants because I'm good at it and I enjoy it. And if you don't have anybody to come home to, you just do that. So I probably wouldn't even have ball pythons, So it's you look at it different ways. But yeah, I need to have something to show for some of this. I don't need to have a lot. I need it to.
Oh yeah.
I needed to pay for itself to start with, which is happening this year. That's fine. But yeah, I would love it. I would love it in the next, as soon as possible, to be my primary income source. But I'm not there yet. I haven't built it. I haven't done the work. I haven't gotten. It's not going to be there. And I guess I could buy my way there, but then I would have the debt I would have to pay off. So then it's still not really, you know what I mean? I want to be, I want to be positive cash flow and debt free on ball pythons. And I'll accomplish that this year. So that's a cool foundation. And that'll be with a good foundation kicking off for this coming season. So I'm really pleased with that.
That's what I'm working towards also. So hopefully towards the end of the year, it'll be, well, I don't know. I started keeping track, partially because of just the stuff you were talking about with like all of your stuff. And like one of your earlier videos, you mentioned how you like more or less keep track. And that goes to what you were talking about before with Stephen and Courtney's video for this season. Like I have like a 2022 season where I have all the babies I produced. I have all the values that, the things that I've gotten for them. I put down all of the, my people's information that have purchased from me. So all that stuff is located in there.
Yeah.
And then I also have like a cost sheet for each month where I have everything broken down for like stuff that we spent on everything. Granted, I know there's stuff I'm missing, but overall I have a good number of things that are in there that have been expenses or animals bought, animals sold. So that way I have some form of like a almost running total of what I've made this year versus what I've spent.
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm still like in the hole by a good chunk, a chunk that, it's a lot of a chunk, but we'll get there.
And I know it's not the show topic, so I don't want to go too far into it, but you've heard my thoughts on it before. I would take all that information to a tax professional and say, what do I need to do?
Figure it out.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to pay you to figure it out. And I've been told a good tax professional will pay for themselves every time. And I have never lost a penny paying a good tax professional, man. I love it. And I swear by it. And it's part of why actually I'm not that freaked out by the uncertainty of income in the future and employment and all of that, because I got a good enough foundation and a good enough number of things going on. So, and they do. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say that kind of segues into some of like the breeding plan stuff and the breeding strategy. Cause like I have, some pairings that I'm planning on doing this year, which of course, like I would like to have holdbacks because I would like to make my own holdbacks, but there's definitely certain pairings that I have together that are specifically for making animals that I will be selling the bulk of to help offset those costs and to help grow my collection in other directions.
Yeah, and I think we should talk some about that. So before we get there, so let's do the old start from the start. Give us, and I know it's just one person's one or maybe two men's opinions here, but give us your macro sort of outlook. What do you, when you talk about a breeding plan, what are you breeding for? What's your context? Because every person's context is a little bit different. So what drives your pairing plans, I guess? And like I say, on a macro level, obviously we're not going to go through all, 45 females of what you're going to, we don't, that's a whole series on YouTube kind of thing. But what's the big picture? What's the philosophy, so to speak?
So, I mean, overall, I mean, it's something which, like you mentioned before, I mean, it would be nice to eventually turn this into something that's more of a full-time situation. And I'm not the type of person where I need or want to like live extravagantly. The only things that I really spend money on anyway are my animals.
Yeah.
So outside of that, it's keeping the fiance happy, which is going to get food places.
Yeah.
Or traveling to places to go get food. The last, we've actually been taking little trips up to New York like once every couple of weeks, throughout the past like two or so months, just to go up there and go to different places because one of our really good friends lives up there. So it's like we do so many things for me. It's like I'd like to do something for her, and there's not anything too crazy around where we live. So
yeah,
it's like a nice little like 4 or 5 hour drive up there. We stay the night. We spend the next day there, and then we come back later that evening. So it's like a little weekend trip, and that's been super nice. And it kind of takes away a little bit of the stress of just always being at home and working and doing all that.
Focus. Yeah. I find myself, since I've been working from home, I've gone a little nuts. Like I got to get out of the house a little bit. Like this is
sadly, I do not work from home. I go into my, because I do ultrasound for work. So I work in a vascular surgeon's office, and we're looking at arteries and veins and stuff all day.
Yeah.
And, that's a 5-day-a-week thing, which, is going to be changing come January to part-time, which will give me more time for the animals, more time for, all the things that includes,
right.
YouTube and social media and all that jazz. So,
yeah.
And I think that'll be really, really helpful. But back to the breeding stuff, I try and split my stuff up into a couple different ways. Like I want to have stuff that I am like, no matter what, from every pairing, I would like to produce, there has to be something in there that would be a goal animal for me to have and to keep back.
Very good. Okay.
Because otherwise, what's the point? Because if I don't want to keep it, why would anybody else want to buy it?
Why am I making it? Right. Okay.
So overall, that's kind of the idea. And then on top of that, there's definitely pairings that are more geared towards stuff that would be for sale, versus, strict holdbacks. Like a lot of the stuff that I produced this season was mostly for holdbacks. Like a lot of my Sunset Project stuff, that was produced mostly so I could have holdbacks, because down the road I can produce and have more visuals and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like a fine line, I guess, and I want it to be, where it does a lot of work, but I also don't want to be overwhelmed. Like I would much rather, keep like, I mean, obviously saying 50 is a lot, 50 is a lot of clutches, but for me, like this year we're going to be having like 18 clutches.
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty good number for, first time, breeding ball pythons.
Well, and I've also, it's probably an overwhelming amount of babies and work, man. I mean, like my 7 clutches worth. And sorry, when I stare around the room, like all my snake stuff is on that side of the computer right there. So I look around on it, but it was a striking amount of work that I experienced, where I was like, oh my gosh, these babies they're just constant, man. Just eat poo, record keeping constantly, and that's part of it. I know that's part of the deal. But when you go from X amount to X plus, in your case, probably at least 100 more, that's a whole lot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know, to be honest with you.
Right.
A good number.
Yeah.
Cause I've got like four, well, it's ARS racks, but I got them split into 4 sections that are 8 high. and it's pretty much full, to include stuff that I picked up this year, to include stuff that, is from maybe last year that just needs to be in a smaller enclosure because otherwise it'll just stop eating because it hates me. I mean, there's, but overall it's like pretty full. So I've got like, I don't know, like 100 and, I don't know, 30 something babies right now,
Yeah.
140, I don't know, something.
Right.
Like I've got space for 160. So I'm figuring that 40 or so of those are animals that just need to be in that size, bin. So
on the and I love the conversations in the chat. I do watch those, but I always try and stay focused on the guest. I suppose I should give two bits of feedback because there's sort of a thought or a debate going on there of don't worry about money out of the gate. Don't worry about building your collection. I am totally down with that, and I don't even have a problem with it. Other than keep track of your money because even if you make a penny of revenue, a good tax person could save you a whole lot on taxes and write-offs and that sort of thing that'll really, really benefit you. So track that. Secondly, I'm absolutely crazy. Part of why I loved running restaurants is the challenge. Like a great restaurant might clear 10%. The margins are so stinking slim. So part of it's that I just enjoy it and I want to practice my craft of running a business. So it's okay. Like there's a difference between having a goal that I judge myself on and considering myself a failure. That's two different things. I set goals. I want to know if I make my goals or not. Does it mean I fail if I don't? No, it means I got to learn from it. What did I do different? What piece of the equation and puzzle am I missing so that I can get there? So y'all don't worry if you think I'm going nuts because I am, but I'm enjoying it. It's a blast. And that's part of my own like growth therapy, midlife, who knows what, so don't worry too much about me. So when we were talking about the things that Brandon, that you would breed for, you were talking about goal animals and then hets for the future. And then animals that can fund the others. So I talk a lot about that I don't really just define. It's sort of a nebulous thing, but a time, space, and money equation. Mm-hmm. So in my adult breeding stock room, I have a finite amount of square footage. So to me, what I've had to choose between is either holding back certain things that are going to take literally years. This hobby is this industry is slow in that way, or things that I do like and that I'm breeding for a purpose, but that I could sell. And then even you and I talked some about this, and then I can buy that one specific visual rather than having a couple, 3 holdbacks of hets or.
Oh no, totally, yeah.
And part of that is not that I don't want to hold back and want to develop things myself, but the time equation is faster and the space equation is better.
Well, that's all you're doing at the end of the day is you're buying time.
Right.
Like you're leveraging someone else's work, for time, so it's like if you don't hit what you need or what you wanted, the best avenue, in my opinion anyway, is to just sell everything from that clutch and then purchase what you need. Like there's some stuff that I could probably do better with now, but like one of the males that was on my list I put down, he's a cinnamon spot nose fire het clown. Like, and I have him going to quite a few females this year because he's really an awesome looking male, but at the same time, like I'm not trying to, go out and buy like a cinnamon spot nose, clown male and spend like $4 or $5 grand. But if I did, that would, pay for itself like right away.
Right.
So at the end, so it's, I don't know, the only thing that would basically save me a year, because I can take that same male to some of these females I have, hopefully hit a male version of that, and then I can use that male within the next year and, and be fine, with saving money because I get to, produce it myself. Right.
Yeah. And kind of the defining factor to me is, well, I say defining, it's kind of nebulous. It's not defined. It's sort of nebulous. But so, for example, I've got some double hets that I've held back for 2 years now because I probably still am not at the point where I'm going to sling the money for double visuals, or at least double visual ultra male clowns. I just got into a double visual that I could afford this year, and that was a hypopide. That's no slouch of an animal, but there are animals that are far more expensive that are double visuals. So it kind of plays into it, and I'm sure it'll be a sliding scale as I get more comfortable spending money, making the money, having the community and the customer base and all the things that go with building a business. Of course, there'll be a day where if it's the right animal for the right project, you almost don't worry about the price, but it's still real money. And right now,
oh no, it is.
Yeah, it's, you know what I mean?
It definitely is.
Yeah, we could play all the tax professional games we want and make our asset sheets look really nice with what we spend. But unless we can, buy groceries and pay electricity bills with the ball python, we got to watch it,
The one thing that I'll say that's usually like beneficial and kind of something to come back on that is like a lot of the stuff that I've gotten, a lot of the really expensive stuff has, I've been able to get it through like doing payment plans.
Yeah.
And it's like, and obviously not everyone's in that kind of situation, but I'm able to, if there's an animal that I like and I can try and figure it out a way, like I will try and pay down like $1,000 or $2,000 a month to try and like buy that animal.
Right.
And, and it's like at the end of the day, like, like I got to give, like Brock Wagner, like dude's awesome. Cause I bought my sunset male and I got 4 het sunset females from him. And I got that stuff on like a payment plan over the course of a couple of months. And that was my first like big, purchase with the ball pythons, as far as like monetary value goes. And it was a huge help. And, this year alone, I don't even, because I've done a couple of deals with a couple people to get some stuff that they needed to help, that they had to help build my collection with some of the hets. And then we've sold a couple het pairs. And, I sold 2 of the sunsets that I produced from my last clutch, like literally before they came out of the egg.
Yeah.
But, someone was like, a buddy of mine was like, hey, I need, 2 females, and we figured something out and he got them. All the other ones that I have, they're not for sale right now because I want to test them for het clown, which is what I get to find out next week. But, those female het sunsets, even then they weren't that expensive. And now it's like you can get a het sunset female for like $1,500.
Right.
You raise that thing up for, a year or 2 years, get a male a little cheaper. And that clutch could produce you like a $40,000 clutch. Like it's insane.
It could. It could.
Or you could get nothing.
You could. Yeah. And that's not me being the naysayer. Clearly I'm well vested in this vision and this project. But those are big steps. And I find we've covered all of this. So like, and I love covering it. I'll continue to cover it. I'll continue to preach it. We're all on our different own paths and what we're own personally comfortable with and where we're at. So, a lot of good friends give me a hard time because they're like, you don't hold anything back. And I'm like, well, I'm not holding back anything. Like if I were making sunsets, I'd hold some back. Like really, really, what's the benefit of me holding back a pastel yellow belly or a pastel pied if I could sell 3 pastel pieds and go buy an Orange Dream yellow belly pastel pied? That really is what I'm after. And I can go and put that male to use right away. Once I'm producing things that, again, I don't know exactly how to define it, but that I can't just really comfortably go out and buy, and that there's the demand. If I'm selling stuff before it's coming out of the egg, then I'm going to know, hey, now I'm in the market I need to be in. Then it's a different story. But right now is about building towards that point for myself. And I get that. I get the value and the beauty of, hey, I built my hats. I have this, I have that. But 10 years will go by that I'll still be doing that. I mean, I'm excited. I want to get, like I say, I enjoy the business challenge of it as well. And I think I got to get there a little bit quicker, and it's going to take some money to do that. And how I'm going to generate that money is selling to some soccer moms.
And that's the stuff that I have on my list of, breeding for animals to sell, to help, just fun because, as we talked about before, it's like the whole idea is for this to replace or supplement, basically become like a full-time type situation,
Yeah.
so that, needs to be there, and it's like, that's why, people like Garrick DeMeyer, Mike Wilbanks, those dudes, like, that's why they produce friggin' a ton of blue-eyed leucistics every year. That's the reason why they do that stuff, is
Yeah.
because that's stuff that sells, for me, the stuff that I want to do for that type of project stuff is mostly going to be within my like dreamsicles. And that's not for any like bad reason on those. I mean, I think they're awesome. Like they're beautiful. And that's part of the reason why, like this year, I plan on doing several pairings that are going to be my yellow belly dreamsicle male to pieds, orange dream lavenders, things like that are also het for pied. So there's chances for dreamsicles, and then anything that's not a dreamsicle will be a lavender or a pied het for the other.
Right.
And it's like, those are all animals that, they're going to be, I don't know, 750,000, whatever,
Yep.
minimum. And it's like, that's all stuff that if that doesn't sell, I don't care because it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's like,
you can you're going to get a bigger return on that. And WS Exotic Shio here, yeah, you're exactly right. That's where I need to. They say I think Adam's plan works until you start needing things no one's selling. I need to get to where I'm needing those things, and that's I could be wrong at the end of the day. I mean, maybe I took the wrong path and the wrong journey, but I'll just call it what it is. There's not a checkbook that's going to have the $5,000 snake in it right now. That's just me. It's my risk aversion. It's my other business sense and business needs that aren't going to fit that, and some other goals. I mean, ball pythons aren't my only goal in life either. So I balance all of that. It's all there.
Well, a lot of the stuff you had on your list for your breeding plan, was good. I mean, it was solid stuff that, you'd be good either to keep back or to sell.
Right.
And it would be desirable stuff for people to get, for those projects. And at the end of the day, it's like you sell a lot of that stuff and then you get yourself some insane something or another to take to your already established group of clowns or pieds. I mean, quite literally, like you could get yourself a het, basically the het version of a Pompeii, for X amount of $1,000 and take that to your existing clowns and you could hit a Pompeii, and then your life changes. Like literally, I mean, that's like, all these single gene, recessives and stuff like that. Like there's still a lot of value to have those things as building blocks within your collection, because all you need to do is upgrade your males. Like that's it. Like, like we were talking about with my berms earlier, like I don't plan on having a ton of those. I have a couple and that's where it's going to be until I produce the male that I need, which will replace the male one of the males that I have.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to then use that animal to spread the seed throughout the entire collection.
You go the whole way. Yeah.
Well, and then it just levels everything up.
And that was
for no cost to you.
Yeah. Again, and I know that everybody's relative. For me, that male acid was like, both financially, but an excited level, was like the best thing I've ever purchased. I'm so excited about this acid.
Have you put in the shed test thing yet?
Yes, I got it. And I got the email today about it. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to find out. And they were like,
that's awesome.
No, they were confirming. I didn't find out. They were confirming that they received the shed.
No, yeah. It's awesome that the process has started, though, because that's the thing that's holding me back on my stuff for the het clown is I'm waiting until these eggs hatch, because I mean it's so close, and I don't want to send in a bunch of sheds and then him not prove out or whatever else, and then all of a sudden I've wasted X amount of dollars to send in all these sheds. But I mean that in itself would be a huge just a huge benefit for your collection, because acid clowns are like gorgeous. They're such a nice animal,
right? Yeah, and like the bait for that is like the base palette to just take off from there. Then there you go. That's the stuff where I'll be like, now I'll hold every bit of that back, because then I can see the
I mean,
future.
like I seen, and it's, I have so many animals in my saved things on Morph Market, but someone posted an acid hypo, and it looks awesome because of how dark and rich the acid is
Right.
and how it mixes with hypo.
Yep.
Like the contrast in like an acid really makes such a cool look, and it's,
Yeah.
so having something like that, like if that acid, is Het Clown, which, hopefully he is, obviously, it's like you produce a couple of those things and then you replace him with an acid clown male that carries other codoms.
Yep.
And then next thing you know, you're making some wild stuff.
Some new stuff. Yeah. And that's the point that I'm just that close on. And you've been first off, you've been very helpful. You and Chris were fantastic to me, but you've been really complimentary too. I mean, I feel like this will be a defining year in a really good way, and not in a hopefully it doesn't define me in a negative way, but in a really good way of going from, oh, this was a neat orange stream or this was a neat Enchi, which are both killer genes and that I want in a lot of things that I do, to where now I'm focused on producing visual recessives, double visual recessives, or double hets to triple hets. Because next year I'll be breeding triple hets. I'll have them at breeding size. So it's there, and I'm by nature a impatient person, which is absolutely ironic that I decided ball pythons were how I would,
Yeah, but they compound though.
They do, yeah, yes.
It compounds quickly, like for, this year obviously, like I'm going to have 18, 19, something like that clutches.
Yeah.
But then next year I have like between like 40 and 60 females that'll be up to, that should be, roundabout breeding size for this season. And whatever isn't breeding size this season will then be breeding size the next season. But then I have all these, sunset type holdbacks.
Right.
So then I'm like in like the 70s or so, but I do plan on trimming some stuff down. But it's like each year, I mean, your production could basically double, as long as you're putting back into your collection, whether that's animals that you produce or animals you buy.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but I chuckle because, yeah, I was just looking at my asset sheet today. I started this year with 23 animals, and I'm over 100 right now. Now, a good chunk of those are hatchlings that I will sell, but I do have holdbacks this year. I mean, I joke, I give Mark a hard time. I do have holdbacks. So, like you say, whether you're holding them back, whether you're buying along the way, we do both along the way, and it is a mushroom cloud of a spiral of growth for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So on your, I think we kind of probably beat it to a pulp here, but for you, and thanks for humoring me because we talked about me a whole lot. But for you, what do you set out? Do you like map out what you'd like to hold back based on the possibilities you can get? And I realize that only goes so far because you never know what you get till you have it. In most cases, sometimes you always know what you're going to get. But do you have like a defined plan of what you're intending to hold back? Or is it sort of all right, let's get it, let's take a look, and then let's look at the market of what I could buy as well? Or how do you look at that?
I don't know. That's really hard to quantify because there's certain animals that I just want to make. So I try and figure out the ways that I can make pieces for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously everybody loves, the Desert Ghost Xanthic clown that Justin made, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like I like it too. And it's like, that would be a cool animal and cool project, but I would think a Desert Ghost Xanthic pied would look better.
Mm.
I just like the look of pieds. Like pieds are just cool. I mean, clowns are obviously also awesome, but for instance, I want to do what I can to make my odds the best. So for instance, like I have 2 Xanthic het pied females and I have an Xanthic pied female. So, and because a Desert Ghost pied male is expensive. I mean, they're like 10 grand.
Yeah.
I was able to pick up a leopard Desert Ghost het pied male, and through genetic testing or whatever else, you afford yourself other opportunities too. if
Yeah,
I don't hit what I need.
yeah,
You know,
there'll be more
so in theory, what I'm hoping to hit is I'm hoping to hit some leopard pieds, double het, Xanthic Desert Ghost. And then I'll have the same pairing that Justin had, except with pieds, to produce his. Because
Yeah,
instead of like a 1 in 256 or whatever, you're now looking at a 1 in 16, because now instead of breeding triple het to triple het, I'm breeding pied to pied, so 100% pieds.
all going to be pied, right?
And then I have a 1 in 16 shot of a double visual on top of that. So it's like a 1 in 16 shot for basically a triple visual animal. You know what I mean? Because I've narrowed the odds down.
Well, and that's a phenomenal return.
And then I'm looking at a 1 in 8 shot of a double visual, because everything's going to be pied.
Right.
And out of those, 25% are going to be clown and 25% are going to be desert ghost.
Yeah.
So I have a 1 in 4 shot of a desert ghost pied, a 1 in 4 shot of a clown pied, and then I have a 1 in 8 shot of a desert ghost clown pied, or a 1 in 16 shot of a desert ghost clown pied.
Yes.
I think that's what it comes out to.
Yeah.
But it's like, so that's how I figure out, or how I think about how I want to structure my plans, you know, because I want to figure out my best way to leverage the animals that I have to be able to make that animal. You know, like I'm sure you've seen the recent video or the reel or whatever they put out showing, you know, some of the chocolate stuff that I have. You know, it's like I have, you know, I picked up recently a chocolate clown from Sal over at Gomez Python.
Yeah.
You know, that thing's awesome. You know, super chocolates are amazing. I think, you know, super chocolates and super blackheads, just beautiful animals. You know, so I have a chocolate ultramel female. You know, so in theory, what I could do is I could take that chocolate clown to that chocolate ultramel and produce super chocolates that are now double het for ultramel and clown.
Right.
I can breed those together, and then I'm looking at the same odds to be able to produce a super chocolate ultramel clown.
Yeah, because super has the same odds as the recessives. Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, exactly. So, well, yeah, if I'm pairing super chocolate double het to super chocolate double het,
yes,
you know, so it's like that's how I try and figure out the stuff. If you have an animal that pieces together with other things, then it makes it a lot easier long run to be able to mix some of the genetics.
Yeah, and that's been, and I don't. This
like
is
if you use, like I was just gonna say, like if you use like a common denominator, right? Like, you know, with like the acid clown, right? Like if you have all these clown females or het clown females or whatever, and now you take that male and you put him in, and then, you know, say you have like a hypo het clown, you have like, you know, whatever other things. At the end of the day, whenever you make that visual, you can take it into those other animals, and then instead of producing whatever else, now you're producing like acid clown het this, or, you know, just, I don't know, it makes the math a lot easier. And at the end of the day, you're playing with odds. So the things that you can do to improve your odds are the ways that I try and structure my plans.
How do you, am I nuts? So here's what comes to my mind. And this has been a constant debate, and it's a fun debate. I love debating it. And I love learning from it too. It's not me just being stubborn and going, no, I know that I don't know. This is only my second go around on this stuff. So I used to get a lot. It's less and less now. I think people are starting to go, wait a minute, maybe that is cool. I used to get a lot of flack because I've got nine different recessives different recessive genes that I work with.
I don't even know how many I got, but it's more than 9.
But my thought being, if my future is double and triple visuals is my goal, that's not that hard to overlap 9. And then, like you say, even if you miss, you're still making
visual het, whatever else.
Yeah, that you hold, and then move those up in the pecking order. And like you say, suddenly you're increasing the odds to where even your misses are double visuals. Okay, fine. That works for me. Now I realize that that probably means that I'm not going to work. I know this is an exaggeration, but hyperbole here, but I'm not going to work clowns the way that Justin has, but who is really. So in my own niche, in my own world and way that I can make it fit, I can get down that
But
path. And it's easy
think
to
about it
later.
think about it though, for you, like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of time and everything else involved, right? But anybody could have the same odds and or luck of Justin is producing a Pompeii. You know,
Sure.
more or less. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
I'm saying my point. If I've focused on a variety of recessives versus one recessive lane, I'm probably not ever going to give as much attention to one recessive. On the other hand, I get whatever that good feeling is, whatever we want to call it, that gets me going and gets me up in the day to scrub snake poo out of tubs. When I started thinking about, holy cow, what's an ultra male pod going to look like that I create that maybe has acid in it, or maybe has this quirky thing that I got going on in one of my clowns. And I know everybody says there's something going on there. That's their thing, but that's mine. And I get to go pursue it. And I
ultra male pods are phenomenal too. They're so awesome.
Right. You know, and so I'm excited about that. Yeah. Phil brings up a good point. Yeah. Justin still buys snakes. Okay. Yes. I mean,
oh yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. Like, you know, yeah, maybe not to the same degree, but you know, at the end of the day, he's trying to produce a variety of different clown type things, right? You know, you have, what's his name from JSA Reptiles, the dude that produced that special Pompeii. You know, that thing is insane, you know, and it's probably from a het type animal that he bought and he bred it to like a special clown or something. And next thing you know, he's got a special Pompeii. Like I picked up an animal from Justin recently, which I'm glad I got it when I got it. But it's a black pastel yellow belly red stripe, right? So the only thing that it's technically missing is spot nose, which I feel like it may or may not have. I don't know. Who knows? I'm hoping that I got the bonus, you know, and Justin just let it slip by.
Yeah, we always we're like, maybe it's there. I think I see it.
But it's 66% double het for ultramel and clown. So now I'm just going to wait until it gets up, you know, has a shed under my belt, and then I'll send that shed in, and then I'll figure out if it's het for clown or het for ultramel.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, if it proves out for either one, that's great. I mean, honestly, I actually got that animal to put into a different project altogether, but it fits within those other two projects that I have too. So I very well could, you know, because I produced double het ultramel clowns this year, I very well could raise that animal up and breed him to those females in 2 years and potentially make a, you know, basically a Pompeii version of an ultramel clown.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I mean, Justin, obviously he's going for it, which is why that animal was available. I mean, that's his miss.
You're right.
You know?
Right.
But it's, you know, but it's something that I could foreseeably produce, you know, and I mean, it's just crazy, like the variety. And, you know, it's to go back on to what you're talking about with the recessive projects. I mean, trying to think of like all the ones that I have, like it's just a lot, you know, because I've got the VPI Xanthic, the black Xanthic, and then I've got genetic stripes, and then I've got tri-stripes, I've got ultramel, and then I've got monarch, I've got lavender albino, and then I've got candy, and then I've got candino, and then I have albino. You know what I mean? It's like,
you're my cover. Now anytime anybody's like, that's crazy, Adam, I'm like, no, go talk to Brandon.
I'm crazier, I assure you. Right. You know, but you know, it's I you know, there's just so many, and it's kind of overwhelming. It really is, because you know, you don't want to miss out at the end of the day, right? And it's like, you know, a lot of people suffer, and I probably suffer from it too, the whole FOMO thing, you know, the fear of missing out.
I think
you know,
no, it was you I was talking to. And I'm sorry if this is like probably one of my dirty secrets. I have to cut out like social media and morph market just because I'll feel overwhelmed and get like this feeling of like, what in the world is the point when all of this amazingness is out there, and I actually lose some of the joy coming back to my snake room when I see that. And I know that's my own fault, but how I deal with that is not, I have to disengage, man. I do my morning posts, and I do those by 8 a.m. every morning. And then I largely like have to just
try and avoid it.
Yeah, because and I think that's part of why I was so productive on YouTube. Like I'm almost up to 400. Like, what the hell do I have to talk about in 400 videos? But I'm almost up to 400 YouTube videos. But that's how I would focus on that and focus on my stuff rather than getting stuck in the comparison trap, because it hits me. And like I say, I know that's my own fault and that's something I got to work on. But like, yeah, I gotta back off, man. Sometimes I've gotten better. I do keep up with it now too, a little bit.
And I'm terrible at it because I'll do the exact opposite. Like in between like patients at work and stuff, I'll just check Morph Market to see if anything is popped up. That's just like even for ideas. Like I wish there was categories because some of the stuff I have saved is simply for like ideas.
Yeah, right.
And then there's other stuff too. Like the reels and all the other Instagram stuff. Like I'll watch stuff to try and get ideas to figure out stuff that I can do to put my own little like kind of thing on it.
Yeah.
So it's like I probably overwhelm myself too much with too much of that stuff. But I think oftentimes it helps with figuring things out for these plans, because sometimes you see an animal and you're like, you know what, that's cool. And that's maybe a direction that I'm going to go. And then you can also, change, your structure of things. I mean, like, like all like the act like super combo type stuff, like with, spot nose and chocolate, like they make a really cool look.
Yeah.
So it's like to make like, a desert ghost, like Dark Knight or something, like a desert ghost, spot nose chocolate clown, or, I mean, it's like all kinds of different things like that help you build that long-term goal.
Right.
I think that's kind of what it comes down to is you're able to plan that stuff out and think like super far into the future. I mean, it's one that I've, definitely made, made public of like a plan that I plan on having, obviously, is, I want to take my sunset male to my ultra male pied female, and she's also possible het hypo. So it's like, it would be cool if she was het hypo, and then I could test for het hypo. And then all of a sudden I have, quad het for sunset ultra male hypo pied,
Yeah.
and it's like I just, that's the kind of stuff that I really want to see and the stuff that I really want to produce. And that's stuff that really isn't going to be like for sale, like unless it's for a stupid amount, because at the end of the day, the double visuals of that stuff are expensive. And that, it's just kind of reminds me, and what's kind of interesting, because I've talked to a couple people about it, because they'll kind of wonder why a clown het for sunset is X amount of dollars, and then a sunset het for clown would be basically 2 times the cost.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes down to leverage, right? Because what value, with you having no sunset animals in your collection, would be a clown het for sunset? There's not really much value at all for you.
No, if you don't have, what are you going to hope that you hit the 50% and then grow it up or test it? And
but now let me ask you this: what would be the value to anybody in their collection that has a couple of clown females to have a sunset het for clown?
Exactly right. Well, yeah, but that's
there's a huge difference, because you go from producing, basically all these people that have all these insane, Kodom clown, Kodom het clown, whatevers. Now all of a sudden, if you have a sunset het clown or whatever het clown male that's like super genetically powerful, that's a huge asset to your collection.
Yes. Yeah, most definitely on that.
So I don't know. I feel like it went off on a tangent or a thing completely diverse of the topic at hand.
Well, no, it's a breeding topic, and it's also, that's what I love about the show. So those of y'all watching that don't know, you've probably seen the show before. I don't go like, question number 4, what is this? And it's not that I'm against having a show plan, because I do. I write out each show and prep, and I do a lot of show prep, matter of fact. But I like the show model having space to go where the conversation will lead, because if the two of us can be having an honest conversation, that's way better than something forced, like, okay, next we'll talk about this or this. It fits me and I enjoy it. And I learned that, like, if I only ask questions that I specifically think I want to know the answer to, I'm never going to learn anything outside of that range. So I don't mind that it goes where it goes. We got 60 people watching, by the way. Thank you. Holy smokes. So we're doing something right. Hey, while we got 60 people, let me really quick. Next week, we got Jace and Josh from Gen Z Reptiles. I'm not sure the show title yet, but I'm sure we're going to talk about social media marketing. Those guys are a machine.
Yeah, they seem really good at social media stuff. Yeah,
they're phenomenal.
I mean, they're just very consistent with videos and everything else.
Yeah, and they're good dudes, man. If there's a future face of our industry and it's those guys, I'm okay with that. Like I'm happy to have them on. So Gen Z Reptiles be on next week. Actually, speaking of a social media powerhouse, this I believe his name is Justin, Stone Age Ball Pythons out in Oregon, 45,000 followers on Instagram. Billy just hit 20. Like, I don't know what he's doing. So maybe they're bots. Maybe they're all purchased. I don't think that's the case one bit. He's a good dude. Stone Age. And then next month coming up still, we got Rashad from 212 Exotics. And I failed to mention, I'm going to be on Nicole's show on Saturday. This Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time. No, I lied. 1 o'clock Eastern this Saturday, October 22nd. I'll be on Lady Tiz Exotics with Nicole Tisdale. So a lot going on at Proper Royals. And so that's what's coming up. If you're just joining us, Brandon Nixon from Nixon Reptiles is the guest tonight, although you probably knew that because you clicked on the show, and I'm thankful for it. So
she's actually semi-local to me too.
Nicole, yeah, I know you're Nicole's there in Maryland as well, right?
Yeah, I guess she's like more towards like Baltimore, like DC kind of area. I'm like more towards like PA, West Virginia.
Yeah, you were talking about going up to New York. I mean, just to talking about a conversation going where it goes. How long is it? Like,
it's like a four something hour, 4 to 5 hour drive.
Man, see, from Jacksonville to Miami, it's 6 hours, man. Like it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
In the Northeast, that Northeast corridor, and I know Mid-Atlantic is far better description for Maryland, but I mean that span is just incredible, and an incredible amount of cities. The other thing too is between Jacksonville and Miami, I mean, until you hit West Palm, there's nothing, man. It's not even like there's cool places to stop or things to see or action. It's just boring.
Yeah.
95, man. And anyway, all right. So I'll say me, maybe not you, me. If I'm lining up triple hat to triple hat and I'm layering these things and I'm going for my first visual that I can hold back and replace that initial triple hat with and blah, 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 all the things we just talked about, what in the world do we do with all the misses? And I'm not talking, and I don't, when I say misses, first, I'm not talking about the ladies, the snakes that we miss on. And secondly, I'm not talking about when we're like gaining steam and our misses are a visual.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
talking about all the normal pass hats.
Yeah, right here, right now, dude trying to get out of the gate going, man, how does anybody get ahead? I got an extra 20 mouths to feed and nobody wants these things. And I'll leave it open-ended there. I'll talk about sort of my answer if I were to pose that to myself. But what do you do? What do you see? What do people do out there? What do you guys do in the audience?
I don't know. For me, I feel like that's kind of like a rock and a hard place kind of thing, right? Because like I produced, we talked about before with the odds. I mean, sometimes they're just not in your favor. I mean, my big desert ghost female gave me, I think it was 5 or 6 or whatever. Yeah, I think it was 6 eggs, 5 males and 1 female. So it's like I have, 4 or 5 double het sunset, desert ghosts, and I really only need 1, for myself.
Yeah.
And it's like, but, thankfully, those males sold, Like I have 2 left that are available, but now obviously you're talking about, doing, triple het to triple het or double het to double het. And it's like, I don't know, the answer might be genetic testing on the females and then keep those back if those work for you. If they prove out for one or the other or both or whatever, and those are things you can hold back. The males, on the other hand, I don't know, like I have some leopard double het ultramel clowns that are possible het pied. You could get a triple het male for a couple $100.
Right.
It's so what I thought I would do, and I don't know how feasible it is or possible it is. I would like to just donate those animals to like a high school teacher, like a biology teacher or something,
Yeah.
and let that be the classroom pet. Like in reality, that's what I would like to do,
Right.
because I would much rather do that than bring it to like a local pet store or something to wholesale it.
Yeah.
Because that's the other alternative, and that may not be the best. That might not be the worst thing if you have a quality pet store in your area. Like I totally wouldn't oppose it, to do that. I mean, what's his name? Will from Royal Canadian Reptiles. He's talked about how there's several like triple het, like desert ghost puzzle, whatever males out there somewhere in the pet trade, because what else are you going to do with them? And it's like,
I know for a fact, and I won't name names, and I won't get specific, but I know for a fact there were some double and triple hets sold for $30-$40 as just pet normals. The males.
oh yeah,
Yeah. It just wasn't worth the time.
And it's like, for my boas more specifically, I mean, there's animals that I produced in there, more so males specifically, that if people were to offer me pretty much whatever for them, by all means, it's like, as long as it's obviously like a reasonable amount for what the other things are on the animal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, by all means, it's, so I don't really have a perfect answer. I mean, the best answer I could even have is pretty much find a wholesaler that you can send that stuff to, or if you have some sort of access to, teachers, because I like my 7th grade teacher, Mr. Stribley, that dude had an entire wall in the back of his biology class that was nothing but snakes and lizards.
Oh, cool.
Like, yeah, just vision cages, 6 feet tall, like 30 feet across, nothing but animals.
Oh, that's cool though. Yeah, I didn't think there was any. Well, I would have been great if there was some magic bullet answer. I realize that that's part of the game, and that's part of. It's not proprietary because anybody can figure it out. But a different situation, somebody that sells at shows, maybe they're offering them at wholesale prices to pet owners and that kind of thing. Like you say, getting things out. I did a thing last year where basically I told, and I'm probably going to do it again here pretty shortly. Basically, I told people, you pay me shipping. Some of these need to get out. And I just want to build relationships with customers kind of deal. Like, hey, I do you this solid. You don't owe me anything, but hey, maybe next year you look out for me. Who knows? You never know how those things come around.
I mean, especially if you think about like the cost of rodents and stuff. Like I bought some frozen mice recently. And I mean, they're basically like a buck a piece.
Yeah.
For like the boas. So you figure I've got, how many do I have over there? 40, 30. I got like 35, right? So basically, it's basically costing me $35 a week to feed the boas, the baby boas.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, 30, 60, 90, 120. So I'm spending, like 120-ish a month to feed, one hatchling rack.
Yeah. That's what I'm up against right now. And it's not breaking me. I know what I know what I got into.
Well, you make the bed you sow.
Right.
Which, that's something you got to be aware of. Like I started because I knew what was going to happen. I knew I was going to get into a situation where I was going to have all these babies. So I started breeding my own like rodents.
Yeah.
So I have like ASFs coming up, and then I have like, mice and stuff as well. And I'm looking to actually expand and get a couple bins of mice coming up also. So that way I can just, because a bag of rodent food is, 30, 40, whatever dollars.
Right.
And all it costs you is time, which unfortunately time is a valuable resource. But I'll throw on like an audiobook and clean rodent tubs, and then I have, a supply of rodents, and some of the hatchlings, more specifically the ball pythons, they'll get fed like twice a week. They'll get fed on usually Sunday and then again on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, and then I'll usually do 2 weeks of that, and then they'll get like a week where they'll get like a week off, and then, 2 weeks again, kind of thing. So it's like you give them like a nice little break and smaller, not small meals, but smaller than a usual meal, because you're upping the frequency,
Right.
of the feeding, so it's, it's very nice to have that there. And I think that's like a crucial thing to your success, is you need to have a, a reliable source for rodents. Like the guy that I get my stuff from, he's awesome, but last year during breeding season, Ozzy came through and cleaned him out.
Yeah.
He did not have extra large ASF. He said he wouldn't have them basically for like 3 weeks.
Right.
So it's like whenever that happened, and he said too, and thankfully I've only just recently started picking up smaller animals from him, mostly because mine, they just don't grow fast enough to feed them at the size they're at now. Because I mean, mine, some of my hatchlings from earlier in the season are between 200 and 300 grams now. Like they're pretty good size. So the ASFs, they don't grow nearly fast enough to feed those guys. And I switch between doing ASFs and mice just to make sure that those, like, I have never had a problem with an animal being stuck on ASF.
I was going to say, yeah,
but just so people don't get like the wrong conception of anything, it's like I make sure that they will eat other items, even for one person, as much as I disagreed with it, I still offered a rat pup to them, and, no problems, it just is what it is, but I started to do that because I didn't want to find myself in a situation where I have 150 babies and I don't have rodents, which is why I started breeding my own. Because whenever they're babies too, like, I mean, you look at like the list, I mean, the one that I sent you has got 40 something pairings on there. It's like you need to make sure that you have a method to feed these guys. Like you need to have a method to give these guys reliable food on a regular basis.
You absolutely do. And I think part of the growth curve for me, I think, looking back now with enough experience under my belt to just say this, part of the growth curve is building relationships. So like, not only do I not want to breed rats, that's just the fact of the matter, but I don't have the space of the facility to, and I'm highly allergic to them. So it's not like I can even put them in a corner of my garage. It's just not going to work.
I've got a friend that's like that too.
Yeah. It's just not, I mean, it was a comical thing. The first time I walked into Jeremy Bod's rat facility, and he's showing me around, and within about 6 minutes, I was like wheezing. I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I got to go. And his facility is beautiful. It's wonderful. So again, there's different ways to achieve it, but yeah, you're right. For me, it was making sure that my rat guy knows, man, he's going to get paid. There's no run around. There's no haggle on price. Matter of fact, I hate to admit it, I don't even know exactly what he charges me, because it's worth the dependability and the good product. And we become buddies. We look out for each other anyway. But there's another level backup, and then there's my frozen backup as well. So you got to have that. And then of course there's the local, just the local relationships in general. But I think it's important to network, and I think it's important for all the benefits of that I gain both from this show, but really I've started to focus locally too. Because you're right, man, you can't have 20 mouths that you can't feed, much less 200 mouths that you can't feed. Like I think that goes all the way to the point of being good for the industry too, because we already have enough pressure of how we're perceived, man. We can't have dead animals. You can have dead animals anyhow in general principles, but you can't be perceived as a dead animal farm. I mean, that's the worst perception that could come for us with the pressures that we're already under. So, but yeah, you're exactly right. And as people, I do talk to people sometimes that are like, man, I bought this, and this. And I'm like, dude, are you ready for what's coming? Like, I want you to be. I want you to be a huge champion for what we're doing. But you got to make sure, like you say, you got to make sure there's a way to feed that you. It was a real blessing last year to only have 2 clutches. I learned a whole lot on 12 animals instead of 80 animals. You know what I mean? It was a monster help this year.
And since we're talking about the food stuff, that kind of it just made me think about like the breeding, as far as like the strategy and how I've figured out that worked well for me as far as feeding the animals and stuff, and the benefits of doing that kind of stuff during breeding season. Because for boas, it's been completely different. Like how people breed boas is very different than how people breed ball pythons. And I bred my ball python, or I bred my boas this past year like how people breed their ball pythons, and I had a lot more success. And a lot of that, I think, comes down to feeding.
Interesting. I don't know. I'm not familiar with boa strategy, but I know that a lot of our audience is. Talk a little bit more about that.
It's painfully annoying, is what it is, because with boas, you
literally
pretty much put them
you while you're doing it, right?
Well, I mean, a lot of the times you just kind of put them together and hope for the best. You do like temperature cycling.
Okay.
And then you put the male in, and you just kind of leave him in there for a couple weeks, and then you check for courting and whatever else. It's a whole like song and dance. And then you take them out for a little bit and feed them, and then you put them back in.
Yeah.
And that, for me, I feel like in the past it's kind of worked, and then it hasn't worked, and then it's kind of worked, and then it hasn't worked. This year, I mean, I got all but 2 of my pairings, so I had basically about an 80% success rate with the boas by breeding them like ball pythons. So I basically put the male in, leave them in for a couple days, pull them out, heavily feed the female, and then a month later put him back in. He hangs out for a little bit, he courts her, he breeds her, whatever, pull him back out. So the male, one, he wants to breed her more because he's not around her all the time.
Yeah.
2, the most important thing is they're getting all that food in there for follicle growth. So my females this year, I've only had 2 that I've actually paired, and that was mostly just to kind of make sure the males kind of knew what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah.
It's like little test runs, and they were at like, I don't know, 10 11 millimeter follicles, so about 1.2 centimeters. And that's kind of like a decent starting range. You put the male in there, the female knows, hey, it's about to be breeding time. And then basically both the males, they locked with those females. And then from now on, those females are going to be getting extra meals each week. So instead of like the normal one or whatever, now they'll get like one. And then if someone else refuses, then they'll get like an extra one.
Right.
And then I actually buy extra just so I have some that I can offer up in the middle of the week. So come tomorrow, I'm going to go through my rodent rack, and I'm going to find my bin of extras from the weekend, and then those females that have already been paired, that hopefully have been growing and developing follicles, are now going to have an extra meal.
Yeah.
And that extra meal, I feel like, is going to be what happens to help get them to grow faster, because I know I had females towards the end of the breeding season when I finally started to realize that this is what I needed to do. Like I had females, they were just developing so slowly. It was like watching paint dry.
They're so
and then
different.
I started giving them extra meals, and they just grew and grew and grew and grew. So that I think is like the huge benefit. And it's a gamble, because now you're doubling or tripling up on meals, depending on what you're feeding the animal, whether it's actual rats or ASFs or some that just love mice. I mean, who really knows? But if you're doubling up or whatever on these meals, you're getting extra calories in there, extra energy, and all of that, I feel like, just goes to developing those follicles and getting those females up to size, follicle wise, to produce. Like food and like, keeping the cage the way it needs to be, which is why I love the ARS racks. I mean, I feel like they keep everything, so perfectly. It's like you really don't need to do any work in there. You just, they're in there, they're hanging out, they feel secure. As long as they're getting as much food as they could possibly want, I feel like you're just going to be successful.
So mine, because I do I do largely frozen thawed, and I hear everybody say how long it takes and the effort and this and that, and it took effort to get them sort of situated. And I don't know if, I guess I'll call it conditioning. I feed mine at the same time every week. I time it almost to the same time of day when I'm heating them in the room, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they go and they eat voraciously. So I feel like I don't want to mess with it. And I love what I don't want to do is,
I mean, if you had a good success rate last year, then what you're doing is clearly working.
well, I only had about a 50% though. So I mean, it's not what I
I don't know.
What's that?
Might try out, never said never know. Might try, thawing out a couple of rats on a Wednesday someday.
Yeah. Well, my fear is if I cook
or give them an extra.
Yeah, my fear is if I cook in the room, because right now when I say cook, heat them up.
Yeah.
They're so conditioned when they smell that I'm cooking in the room, they're eating. What I don't want them to do is condition them that, hey, you smell that and then you don't get something. Don't get excited. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's a realistic concern or not.
But like Billy over there at Mutation Creation, he was talking about he feeds his stuff every other week.
Yeah.
Because during the height of whatever happened up there in Canada, a lot of rodent breeders got wiped out or had difficulties. I don't know what the deal was, but either way, it ended up having to work out for him where he was feeding his stuff bi-weekly.
Yeah.
And he said that he had the same great success with that. And I feel like for me specifically, because I do use ASF for my adult females that don't take a frozen thawed rat.
Yeah.
And and all of the females I'll actually offer them all, the ASFs. However, on days where I'm feeding the boas, I will often thaw out a couple extra small rats just to offer some of the ball pythons, because there's some of them that every single time they'll take a frozen. They don't care what it is.
Right.
But then there's other ones that every once in a while they'll take it. Maybe they won't, so at the end of the day, they're opportunistic, I feel like, so it doesn't really matter. So if they're conditioned to eating, that prey item.
Yeah. And you're right about, I had to take back some of what I said, because you're right. On my adults, I feed every other week, and they're not on the same cycle. I do that to cut down some of the work and some of the cleaning to spread that out. So yeah, I mean, you got a point on that. And I think my angle this year on trying to improve odds is first being better at the rhythm and understanding what the true breeding process is. Because last year I think I was just burning out males. Man, I would pair
and seeing that's the benefit of the old ultrasound machine. Like I got mine. I mean, I got it in my little fancy box here.
Yeah. Well, and you got the good stuff, man. I know. But that
helps tremendously. You'll get, even if you get an extra clutch, it pays for itself.
Yeah.
In the long run.
I just haven't bought it, but I'm a believer. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's, so that I think comes to, because my female, the one that I mentioned in the beginning where, that was my first clutch. I put my sunset male in with this albino spider female. And, nothing happened. I figured, I'm like, hey, like, this is my only female that's up to size. I'll put him in. I'll see what happens.
Right.
And I put him in there and I didn't see anything. And he was in there for a week. And I pulled him out, put him back in his cage, and never thought nothing else of it. So they only bred one time.
Yeah.
And I got 5 eggs,
yeah.
And they all hatched and everything went fine. But the benefit of having the ultrasound and the benefit of having food, because 2 stories are basically from the same situation. This past year, again, that female was developing and she was doing great. I put the male in there. He bred her, everything was going fine. She refused food one or 2 times in a row. And I was like, okay, well, maybe she's done.
Right.
And she specifically eats frozen thawed rats. Like I just leave them in there and she just crawls over and just starts eating them. Yep, and that's what it is.
We call that the buffet here. Like some of them are buffet eaters. Some of them want to attack.
No, and that's what she is. She's a buffet eater. Like she'll just mosey on over to it whenever she feels like it and get eaten. And she refused a couple meals a couple weeks in a row. So I was like, okay, maybe she's done.
Yeah.
I probably, maybe she was in shed, maybe something. I don't know what the deal was. But either way, what happened is, I expected that she was very far along, and then I ultrasounded her, and then I seen that she, in fact, was basically reabsorbing those follicles.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time is that by one splitting up the pairing, because you can the way that I have, because my sunset male, like, I mean, he put in a lot of work this year, and he put in a lot of work over a long period of time, and he only refused one meal ever, and that was when he was in shed.
Yeah.
So he did a great job with eating. He did a great job with breeding. But quite literally, I could put him in a cage. He would breed that female within that day, and
Hmm.
then by the same time the next day he was unlocked. I could pull him out. I could give him 2-3 days break in between, and then put him with another female towards the end of the week. And so basically, he could service 2 females per week. You
That's,
know,
yeah. I mean, that's incredible pace. Like you say, I mean, as long as they're eating, that's cool. That's a serious pace on an animal,
and
though.
as long as and then whenever he was going through shed or whatever, he got a couple weeks off. And there was times, both in the beginning and the end and towards the end of the season, where he would go in with a female maybe every 2 weeks, because other females weren't developing, other females weren't doing different things.
Right.
And so that's, like, I think the biggest benefit with the ultrasound is you can look at a female and you could be like, okay, well, last week or last month I scanned you and you were a centimeter. This time you're still a centimeter, so you're not doing anything. So you can do a couple of things from my limited experience, is basically just feed them heavy and as much as they want, and then hopefully that's going to help them develop those follicles, because at a certain point, like my clown female was the first ball python I got back in 2019. I put that sunset male with her first because I wanted to prove him out for het clown.
Yeah.
She never developed. I bred her for 3 or 4 months straight. He went in there once a month for 3 or 4 months, and not once did she ever get over 15 millimeters. She just never developed. I don't know what her deal is. So
Right.
I'm hoping this season I'm going to keep a even closer eye on her. And I'm not even going to pair her with the sunset this year. I'm actually going to pair her with that cinnamon spot nose fire het clown. But that, specifically, it's like, they just, I don't know, sometimes they just don't grow, but adding that extra food in there helps. Sometimes the stimulation of a male helps as far as getting them back on food.
Right.
That's kind of how, my clutch that I'm waiting to hatch next week. I mean, that was that sunset male that's possible het clown to a pastel banana clown female. And, that basically happened because that female she was off food. She decided she didn't want to eat food. So I was like, okay, maybe if I put a male in there, she'll start eating food. And sure enough, the male bred her. She started eating voraciously. And then one day I was like, let me just scan her real quick and see what's happening.
Yeah.
She was at like 27, 28 millimeter follicles.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So she went from nothing is going to happen, she's off food, she's a small female, to huge follicles, huge feeding response. And now she's, going to give me, a clutch that will be, it'll either be like awesome because it's double het sunset clowns, or it'll be amazing because it proved out my male. Now I have
Right,
all
'cause
these all these females and other animals that I can test for het clown.
Yeah.
Like it could, she went from, just kind of, being, kind of a pain because she wasn't eating, to potentially giving me like a great gift,
Yeah.
as far as answering this question. So
It's a fun journey. It's a fun, as much as we could predict on it, there's the unpredictability that I think we're all a little bit addicted to. I mean, it's almost, anyway, I think there's a reason that a lot of breeders used to play poker, and like I quit playing poker and I go breed ball pythons. But Brandon, where can people check out all of your content? Where are all the platforms that you're on?
I mean, mostly Instagram is where we post, or try and post daily. Due to the little algorithm gods, you need to post all these videos and stuff. So
all hail, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I try and post there. However, I feel like I enjoy YouTube stuff more often. Sometimes I just fall out of the rhythm of it. Like, I was going pretty good for a while, and then I took a couple weeks off, And a lot of it's just because I am not like, it's a very different experience having a conversation with somebody like this versus recording my YouTube
Oh,
video.
completely.
And
Two
and
different
I'm
things, big time.
I'm not the super bubbly, personality that, like the dudes from like Gen Z Reptiles are, where they can be
Yeah, yeah.
very excitable and everything else. I mean, that's just not me. And I, find recording just in general, I'm pretty uncomfortable, when it comes to doing that stuff. And, it's, a lot of people, joking, have talked about like Justin's videos about how he's like super boring, but you show up because the animals are cool,
Yeah.
because, and it's like, I feel like I'm the same way. I'm not very excitable. I'm not like that dude that's going to be like, oh my God, check this out. Like,
Right.
it's just not the way it is. I mean, that's just not my personality,
Well,
and
well, it wouldn't fit you anyhow, man.
like I'll be super excited about something, but I'm not gonna be like visibly excited.
Right. I know.
Like
Yeah.
it just is what it is, and but at the end of the day, I like and find YouTube to be the best resource because overall, your account isn't randomly gonna get chopped in half. Like you're not gonna randomly lose all your followers or whatever else and your account be blocked out. And then secondly, with YouTube, you have basically an archive of your work, you know? Yeah, thanks, Charlie. But, so it's, with YouTube, you have a, like, and especially with like Morph Market and other things, like YouTube is an integration, right? So it's like, I can basically put and that's what my last couple of videos have been like clutch reviews. It's like, here are the parents, here are the babies, this is what they are, and then I attach that video with my listings on Morph Market, and then you can see pictures of the babies, and then you can go to YouTube and you can view a video of the babies. Like there is no reason in the world for anybody to ever ask me for another photo.
Right. Yeah.
Like there isn't, like there's no reason, like because the photos are, I can't personally get better. I mean that's the best those photos are going to get,
Right. Right.
and the
Yeah.
video is about as good as that's going to get too. Like if that doesn't sell you on needing or wanting that animal, quite down, I don't know what else will. Like
Well,
you're
yeah. There's so a couple things. One, I agree. I would much prefer to focus all my effort on YouTube.
And
With
now also, just to interject real quickly, I don't know if you got the email, I'm sure you did, but they're actually doing monetization for YouTube Shorts, which is basically their way to fight back against TikTok and Instagram
in
because
the reels,
now
right?
people have the attention span of a goldfish.
Yeah.
It's basically, if you get like, I don't know, and like a lot of views within a certain period of time, on like your reels within like X number of period, you can basically get into that monetization process. And for somebody like yourself or myself, and what I plan on doing is taking my longer videos because I don't know if you probably don't play any video games, but my fiance and I will play like Fortnite occasionally or like Warzone or whatever else. And a lot of those people that do that stuff, they will make shorts showing like a little highlight from the game or like a
Yeah.
little intro, and then it's like, hey, to see the rest of the game, check out the link in the description to go to the full video. So we, as people that are using YouTube for brand awareness, for overall archive, showing like, like for you, it's like you and your family's journey from reptile
Yeah.
hobby to reptile
Right.
business, right?
Yeah. The documentation.
It's like,
Right.
yeah, so it's like you could then have your little short of like, hey, these are the animals from this and this and this, for the rest of the clutch, check out our video.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a quick way, not a quick way, but it's a way to get into, people that maybe come by a short, 10, 15-second video, and then you convert that into a larger video, and then you convert that into somebody that goes and checks out your morph market or whatever else,
Yeah.
or just
Well,
in general support, because it's just the people that, whether they buy something or not, the people that are constantly in on lives, in on your videos that you post on Instagram or on YouTube, those people make a huge difference. Like, there's people that I've talked to and whatever else, that it's like they're just like good people to talk to, good people to bounce ideas off
well,
of.
yeah, there's the network to build. So look,
It's super helpful.
I agree with you. I would focus, if I had my choice, I would focus my efforts on YouTube. But the value in Instagram first is just being a presence and building a brand awareness. But the reach, I mean, I reach, I don't engage with them the way that I do. Like this show tonight, I'll get 200 to 300 hours of watch time off of this show just tonight from the people. That's a hell of a lot of engagement. I won't get that on Instagram, but I will reach 100,000 people a week on Instagram. I don't have the followers to show it, but I got the metrics to show it. So what you're talking about, converting them from the people that want the picture, then the reel, then the video, then a brand loyalty. Yeah, that's the long-term big picture. And however we do that, I mean, I think shows and personal interactions can be part of that as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to interject quickly on the Instagram thing, just because because I know you get on and then you get off. So one thing that I've seen, because I've watched far too many videos on growing Instagram, growing all these things, because that stuff interests me. And that's where I feel like, honestly, like having more of a presence, having more of like a following. And I mean, actually, like, I'm sure you've heard the rule of like 1,000 loyal fans or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So basically it's like, I would like to have 1,000 loyal fans, because that would be more than enough to make this a sustainable, business, hobby, like whatever, but a lot of those people basically say, like, the engagement, obviously when you get to such a high status that it doesn't really matter, but like pretty much every person that comments on my Instagram video, I will reply to. And it's a genuine reply. Like, I'm not just like half-assing a reply.
Yeah, I'm not just hitting the heart button.
Because I fully appreciate every person that does it. But I'm just saying that to say that by going in and replying and liking and whatever those comments, that will further your reach on Instagram.
Yeah. And
it's very annoying, but it will.
No, it is. And I actually, all the comments I don't get, I'm not annoyed by any of it, really. One of the strategies I employ, and I just see it as work. I get in and I get out. I break it up into three. Every time I eat, I spend 5 minutes finding new people.
Doing all that stuff, yeah.
Finding new people. I'll go like, who posted a crazy picture? Whoever posts a crazy picture and gets 30 comments, I'll go click on the comments and I'll find people that I've never met and go comment on their animals.
Yeah, so another strategy, which, the Gen Z guys honestly would probably be better for that anyway, is, from what I've seen is like, so if you post, whatever, your acid ball python, right?
Yeah.
Now in your tags, you have acid ball python. There's probably a bunch of people that have used it. So now you just hit that acid ball python tag, you go to recents, and then you see the most recent posts, and those people are probably still online. Just go there and actually find images and whatever that you actually like and interact with those people, because guess what? They're going to look at you, and then they're going to open up your name, and then they're going to see that you just posted this acid het clown or whatever. And then they're going to be like, hey, that's awesome. And then they'll check out your stuff. It's just like the reciprocation, if somebody does something for you, you kind of want to help them out as well. Like, I mean, it just kind of is what it is. And I feel like, it's, I don't know, it's rough. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. And I mean, with your, hopefully this doesn't mess up the audio. Can you hear me still fine?
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully there's no echo. My earbud died. So here we are. Lost my train of thought.
Oh man, you're on a hot one too. You were going.
Technical difficulties. Man.
Well, look, I always promise that this is actually a long show for my show. I always promise I want to keep everything fresh, but I do want to put a cap on it. I'm going to call it. And if you think of that one item, we're going to circle back. But look, I want to say thanks to Brandon, and I'll get there in a second. I want to say thanks to the audience. Like, the engagement, the regulars, the reinforcement, the support, to have somebody like Alan say I'm in the top 3 reptile podcasts is incredible. And it is what I want to do and where I want to get to. And this is valuable to me. And I appreciate that support. Alan, I actually got to get in touch with you. He made an incredible impression on me, and I finally kind of quantified it. And he's an incredible, genuine though salesman. And I got a lot to learn. I'm going to study Alan's ways, but thank you very, very much for those kind words. Let me see here again before we get to wrapping up with Brandon. Nicole, I see you in the audience. I'll see you this weekend, 1 p.m. Eastern, with Nicole Tisdale, Lady Tiz Exotics. I'll be on her show. Check out her channel if you're not familiar. Incredible woman with amazing big snakes, like snakes that terrify me. She keeps for fun. So we'll dig into that on her podcast, or we'll dig into whatever she wants to dig into. I'm the guest that day. I get to kick back and hang out. So thank you, everybody. Wait a minute. What just happened here? Holy smokes, dude. William, I'm incredibly flattered. That's incredible. That's going to feed Tito this week. My rack guy, my ASF guy is going to get paid. This is good. No, I'll joking aside. Thank you so much. William, thanks. I don't think I know you, and I regret that. I'm going to reach out to you afterwards. That's incredibly gracious.
Stuff. I picked up a GHI het tri-stripe girl from him last year. Although currently she's on a little bit of a hunger strike, but she's still probably 1,300 grams. I mean, she's awesome. But I think he recently posted some Indian pythons, and those things are just awesome. Like he keeps a lot of really cool stuff, and he does powerlifting, and he's a cool dude.
Well, I will be checking out your channel, everybody. If nothing else, he paid for our attention for a moment or two. Check it out. Paul at Large Marge. 1 second. Boom. Paul, Large Marge morphs from Pee Wee's Playhouse. Talk to him. He's got some cool swag and magnets. Boom. That sticks right on the side of my incubator. Paul, thank you very, very much. Thanks for the great live, everybody. Brandon, thank you for being here, man. I got to tell you, the people that I have on the show, I always like to have a connection with. And you've been very, very good to me with no expectation of return. And that's a real genuine piece. I know that this stuff isn't your favorite in the world. I know that probably interacting one-on-one is, but doing the social media and that stuff isn't your favorite. But I think it's amazing content. I think you're doing amazing things. And the animals that you produce are great. And you're just a wealth of knowledge. And I want to say thanks. And I hope everybody goes to check you out. And I hope that the day isn't too far. Man, we missed by 1 day in Daytona. I really, really regret that we missed each other, man. Hopefully we don't have to wait till August to aim for that again. Yeah, Jeremy says the barbecue will be here before we know it.
So one interjection, and it's I think it's something we should have probably covered. And I won't spend a lot of time on it, but one thing that I think is super important is backup males or other males that you can use. I know I sent my breeding list over to you earlier, but one thing in particular, I have a black axanthic female that I want to pair this year. And it's there's a couple other ones. She's just the one that I seen on the top, but I have a couple different males that I would like to put with her. I have a tri-stripe male, a super chocolate hypo desert ghost, and a pastel super inchy desert ghost het hypo. So regardless of what is produced, you'll be able to tell what did it, because if everything's a chocolate, then super chocolate did it. If everything's an inchy, the super inchy did it. If you don't have chocolates or inchies, then the tri-stripe did it. But having a male, any of those projects, I would be 100% fine with having animals from. So by having a backup male that is a super type animal that you can discernibly tell the difference from, is super, super valuable, because you might have a male that isn't doing work, or, maybe you just, tag team the female, for lack of better words, throw the kitchen sink at her,
Yeah, and see what comes.
Male is a better fit, because sometimes a female just won't like a male. And I just feel like that's like a quick, snippet, but a very valuable thing that maybe, some people haven't thought about or put consideration into. Having something like that is just helpful.
Yeah, I could vouch for one thing I learned on 2 clutches last year was don't get stuck not knowing for sure with certainty what genes are in there.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I landed in the right decisions on what I held back, and it did prove to be what I thought it was. But
worked out.
It worked out, but that was luck. I prefer to work out on some semblance of skill. So you're exactly right, Brandon. Thank you so much. Let's do it again, and thanks for all your help. We got to stay in touch. Of course, we will. We talk often, and I look forward to it. So thank you, audience. Thank you all very, very, very much.
Showed up as well.
What's that?
I was saying, and thanks to everybody that showed up as well.
Yeah, big time. I don't have the music to play out. I'm on the backup computer, so we're just gonna
give them a friendly.
Yeah, we got to do like the freeze frame until we're out. Everybody, good night. Cheers. Thank you very much. Freeze frame.